What are you gonna do when she dies?
Oh God, what if she dies tomorrow?
That's a fun thought. It'll probably send you into like a spiraling pit of just.
But like, what if she actually dies tomorrow because we've been thinking it and putting that negative energy out into the universe?
You are literally not gonna be able to function.
Just stop thinking about it.
You're gonna go through one of those things where
Think of
shower for like weeks on
Think
end.
about literally anything else.
That'll be really fun.
Think of something else.
It's better to just prepare
This
now.
is it. This is it.
Spare yourself some pain.
Literally, the longer you wait to think of something, the more that negative energy is being put out
Cue
there.
the waterworks. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you so much for being the greatest friend of all time.
You know she's just saying that because she feels sorry for you because you don't have any other friends.
I have other friends.
No, they all secretly hate you too. They just keep you around so that they can laugh about you later. Did you see the way she blinked just now? She's definitely mad at you.
You're my very best friend.
This is her normal blink. You realize she's also forced to be friends with you because she's your cousin. Do you think I should ask her if she's mad at me? I mean, it's like better to know, right? Or will I make her more mad at me if I ask if she's mad at me? You're like a terrible person anyway, so you don't even deserve friends. All right, that's it. I have made up my mind. I am definitely not gonna ask her if she's mad at me, but like, I totally know that she is. Like, it's a fact.
Okay, honestly, you don't look too bad today. Your hair is actually cooperating and your makeup is looking okay.
Yeah, you and all your chins look super great
What if
today.
the only reason that you're losing weight is because you actually have some rare, undiagnosed disease?
Remember in 8th grade when your friend's mom told you that sunscreen was really important and you just laughed at her? How are those wrinkles doing?
I read one time that this college girl lost like 15 pounds and she thought it was just due to stress, but really she had a gigantic tumor.
Have you ever noticed that your nose is like half a millimeter higher on the left side?
You should Google the story. I think you'll find it pretty interesting.
And the Oscar goes to
Emily Brostaff. I am so dumb. Okay. At some point, if the skits are a little too much, just let me know. I just really enjoy doing them because, especially when I feel like I'm going to be talking about heavier stuff in my videos, I just want to start off the beginning like on a happier note. But anyway, hi, my name's Emily Brostaff. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, I am almost 30 years old and chasing a YouTube career. I'm not even sure where to start with this video. You've obviously already seen my title, so you know that in today's video, we're gonna be talking about mental health. So I just wanna get it out there right off the bat that I am not a mental health professional. This is not meant to be taken as advice. I am simply just telling my story and hoping that maybe someone else out there can relate and feel a little bit better and less alone. So let's just dive right into it. To start off, I should have been in therapy a long time ago. I had a very tragic incident happen to me when I was in high school to the point where it completely altered who I was. I went from being this happy, carefree, very stereotypically bratty teenager to all of a sudden completely drowning in my negative emotions. My entire childhood, I had been told that I was overdramatic. Perfect for YouTube, right? But this was the first time in my life where I legitimately recognized that I was not okay. Unfortunately, I did not get into therapy until much later in life, so for the time being, I was trying to figure out how to manage my emotions on my own. And because of this, I lost a lot of friends. I went from being the wild, funny, life of the party friend that everyone loved having around because I was just like so crazy and brought so much happiness with me to this shell of a person that my friends did not recognize. I was moody and I was mean and I was snapping at everyone and I was pushing people away and then all of a sudden clinging on to them. It was giving everyone whiplash. And every time I had a friend walk away, it made things so much worse for me. And I'm not trying to put any of the blame on them because, oh my God, like we were all children and like all of a sudden I was this completely different person and like I was a lot to handle. But anyway, this pattern continued into my college days. And after losing so many friends, my anger and my attitude turned into pure anxiety. I started getting really depressed. I was talking to myself really negatively. And worst of all, I was desperately people pleasing. I was so desperate not to lose another friend that I was willing to do anything and be anyone that they needed me to be in order to get them to stick around. I bottled up my feelings, I stopped talking about hard subjects, and I molded myself into who I thought they wanted me to be. And if you couldn't already guess it, this did not work out well either. Now, when I met my ex my junior year of college, who I would just like to remind you was in the middle of getting her PhD for clinical psychology, I started toying around with the idea of going to therapy. But again, because of my financial situation and because I am a super stubborn person, it did not happen. Then after I graduated college, it started to get really bad. I had left my mental health on the back burner for so long that I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't like myself. I didn't want to be alone with myself. I felt ugly and dumb and awkward. I convinced myself that everyone who met me or knew me hated me. They could be standing right in front of me and telling me how much they love me and adore me and need me. And in my head, I would be saying, they're lying, and they're just saying that because they feel sorry for you and they don't actually mean it, and they're gonna leave you just like everyone else did. And it was exhausting and it was miserable, and I never had felt so alone. Then I just started getting totally unhinged. In the matter of sheer seconds, I would look at myself in the mirror and I would think, I was God's gift to this earth, and everyone should be so lucky to be hanging out with me, and that I was amazing and beautiful and smart. And then literally with the snap of a finger, I would blink and look at myself again, and I would think, you are disgusting and you don't deserve anything, and why are you even still here? And it was a horrible way to live. And of course, there were some days where I was able to function and things were pretty much back to normal and I'd be okay for a little while, and then ultimately the crash would always come. I literally felt like I was going insane. And then I stumbled across borderline personality disorder. My wife at the time was specializing her research in this disorder. And the more that she would come home from work and talk to me about her research and show me her materials and tell me everything she learned that day, the more it was starting to click in my head that borderline personality disorder, or BPD, was fitting every single one of my symptoms. And before I hop into this next part, I'm just going to quickly explain to you what borderline personality disorder is. And because I don't want to mess anything up, I'm going to read to you what I found on the National Health Institute's website. So borderline personality disorder is an illness marked by an ongoing pattern of varying moods, self-image, and behavior. These symptoms often result in impulsive actions and problems in relationships. People with borderline personality disorder may experience intense episodes of anger, depression, and anxiety that can last from a few hours to a few days. Okay, now this part's important, so I'm gonna read you off what the symptoms are, and you tell me if they sound familiar. The first symptom is efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment, a pattern of intense or unstable relationships with family, friends, and loved ones, a distorted and unstable self-image, impulsive and often dangerous behaviors such as spending sprees, unsafe sex, substance abuse, reckless driving, and binge eating. Self-harming behaviors, I didn't qualify for that one. Recurring thoughts of unaliving yourself. Intense and highly changeable moods, with each episode lasting from a few hours to a few days, definitely. Chronic feelings of emptiness, inappropriate or intense anger, difficulty trusting, and then the last one is feelings of dissociation, which I did not qualify for. So out of the 11 symptoms, I qualify for 9. And of course, my wife would never diagnose me because that is super unethical. And if you don't know, if you have a family member or friend or significant other that is in the mental health field, ethically speaking, they are not allowed to diagnose you. But what she would do is she would give me her materials to read, and she would allow me the space as my wife to talk to her about my thoughts. And the more I talked to her about it and the more I read and educated myself about it, the more it started to make sense in my head that this is exactly what I had. There was a reason. There was a fixable reason to my behavior and my thoughts. this was the motivation I needed to finally seek out help. So of course I looked up psychologists in the area that specialized in borderline personality disorder, and I made an appointment, and I waited the few months that it took to get in, and I marched right into that office, and I was so excited. I was so excited to sit down with someone and finally be diagnosed, to finally learn that after 10 years of being miserable, that there is a solution out there and that there is hope. Well, as with everything else in my life, it did not go very well. I walked into her office and she was very kind and very welcoming, and I sat down and basically explained to her everything that I just told you guys. So, I'm sitting there and I'm rambling as I do, and then when I'm done, she said, okay, well, in order to diagnose you, I have to get a little bit more background info from you. And so, we talked about my childhood, and we talked about how I was in gymnastics for a really long time, and we just kind of went over everything in general. And at the end of her questions, she looks me right in the eyes and she says, I'm gonna tell you right now, you do not have borderline personality disorder, you have PTSD. And this crushed me. I was so sure that I had completely and utterly figured myself out. But of course, because I recognized I was sitting down with a professional, I was willing to hear her out. And what I fully expected her to say was, you have PTSD from this very traumatic thing that happened to you when you were a teen. Nope. She sat there and said, you have PTSD from your time as a gymnast. I like to recognize that yes, my time in the gym was definitely toxic and there was some horrible things that happened there, but for someone to sit there and completely skip over this perfect diagnosis that I've presented to them, and to completely skip over my teenage trauma, and to say that I have PTSD from being a gymnast, I was so confused. So I asked her to elaborate. I said, would you mind telling me what the qualifying criteria are in order to be diagnosed with PTSD, because maybe they're really similar to borderline and maybe I just messed them up. And do you want to know how many I qualified for? Go ahead, I'll let you guess. I qualified for one. Just one. Now, I don't have my degree in psychology, but something in my brain is telling me that you have to have more than one qualifying symptom in order to be diagnosed with PTSD. So when I sat there and said to her that I don't think I qualify for PTSD and that borderline makes much more sense, she gaslit me. She sat there and tried to say that I don't know myself as well as I think I do, that I don't know psychology as well as I think I do. It was weird. And at the end of the session, she made it very clear that she would never diagnose me with borderline, but that if I wanted to come back and be treated for PTSD, that her door would always be open. And because this was my first experience with a therapist, I was 100% discouraged from trying to go out and find another one. But of course, my wife at the time, who's much more rational than I am, convinced me to go and try one more time. And if you're not already picking up on the pattern here, that did not go so well either. At least the second therapist agreed with me that I had borderline. But I never went back after the first session, because when she asked me who my support system is, which is like a pretty stereotypical question you have your first session, I was telling her about my family and I was telling her about my wife at the time. And then I ended it by saying, I have my best friend, Emma, and I just gushed about her. I was just talking about how supportive she is and how amazing she is, and just how I feel so lucky that she's in my life, and when I'm really sad or fighting with my wife, that's who I turn to. And she looked at me and said, "Are you in love with Emma?" I about died. For those of you that don't know, I often call Emma my best friend, but she's my cousin. And I would like to remind everyone that I am from Virginia, not West Virginia. Am I allowed to make that joke? So anyway, of course, I start busting out laughing, and I'm explaining to her, and I say, "Oh, that's my cousin." I was like, "I've known her since the day she's popped out the womb. Like, we're just really close. Like, ew, no, that's hilarious." And she still looks at me, not breaking eye contact, and she says, "Well, are you kidding me?" This gets me so fired up because it is one of my biggest pet peeves. Since the day I came out of the closet, I have had multiple people assume that when I am close with another female, despite family relations or despite them being straight, because I'm close with them and because I am a lesbian woman, that I must have feelings for them. I cannot stand that. And so even after explaining to this professional that she is my cousin and that is disgusting and ew, for her to sit there and still challenge me, no, I walked right out of that office. So at this point, I was done. I had had 2 terrible experiences back to back. I was not going back for a third. And then, of course, a few months later, my wife and I were trying to decide whether we should get a divorce or not. And during that time, I tanked. And I recognized for my own safety, I had to try again. So long story long, it has a good ending. I found an incredible therapist here locally. She has been awesome and validating and really helping me work through things, and I can already see significant changes. And obviously there are days where I still struggle and I revert and I feel like a burden, but it's getting better. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional. It's one of those phrases that I used to laugh at until I lived through it and understood how true it is. But it gets better. It gets better. Even just 3 months ago, I was so sad, and constantly every second of every day, I felt like such a burden to everyone that the thought that my life could be anything different from what it was in that moment, I couldn't conceptualize. But I held on, and you know what happened? One more time, it got better. Anyway, that's it for today's video. I just wanted to thank you guys for giving me the space to share and be vulnerable and showing me that it's okay to talk about this kind of stuff on this platform. But I just thought this was really important to get out there because if someone else is going through something similar or experiencing similar feelings, I want you to know that you're not alone and it's okay to talk about the big things that you're going through and it's okay to ask for help. I'll stop talking now. That's it for today's video. I hope you liked it, and if you didn't, please don't tell me because I cannot handle that kind of negativity and I will cry. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all the other things I'm supposed to tell you to do, and I really hope to see you next week. Okay, bye!